Suta lay in bed staring at his phone, unable to escape the tension from earlier as it tightened around him. His thoughts kept circling one tiny detail he had noticed, and the image only grew more unsettling each time it returned. Suta blankly realized there had been a mole, and that small mark shook him even more because of how close he had been. Then, Mio Sakurazawa rose in his mind and called his name, dragging every scattered thought back to her. He remembered accidentally seeing a side of the class's most popular gyaru that he never should have seen, and his embarrassment twisted into something far harder to shake. The memory framed it as the secret of the most popular girl in class, and that alone made it feel dangerously heavy. Suta reminded himself that Mio Sakurazawa was the most popular girl in class, adored by everyone, and still somehow only his classmate. He remembered that Mio was also his childhood friend, and when someone invited them out for drinks after school, she casually said she might go if he came too. Other students joked that she was already taken, while Suta judged her bitterly in silence and felt himself sink even deeper into conflict. Even so, he admitted that beneath Mio's polished and proper image, she had a hidden side as a cosplayer, and that contradiction would not let him go. The pressure hanging over the scene grew heavier, with no sign of release. The strange silence kept stretching until it felt impossible to breathe through. The scene remained locked in a stillness that only made everything worse. The situation stayed unresolved as the pressure quietly closed in. The weight of the moment clung to everything and refused to loosen. Even the silence felt charged enough to snap. The tension lingered on, denying either of them an easy escape. The interaction left both of them more shaken than either wanted to show. The strained moment kept dragging on without mercy. The scene stayed trapped in an uneasy stillness that would not break. Mio hesitated in visible embarrassment, while Suta awkwardly explained that the boxed meal had been made by his mother for him. Mio thanked him softly, and her gentle smile threw Suta's emotions even further out of balance. Suta realized with a sudden rush that Mio had once been his first love. As he looked back on their school days, Suta remembered how charming Sakurazawa had seemed back then. When Suta tried to approach, the boys around Mio turned and brushed him off with a casual apology, stopping him cold. Suta forced out a laugh and acted as if he had not noticed, while bitterly admitting to himself that he used to stand out more. Watching Mio move so naturally among others, Suta reflected that both of them had changed in too many ways. Mio smiled brightly in his memory, while Suta painfully realized he was the only one still holding on to that time. Suta concluded that not long after, Sakurazawa transferred schools, and that was where whatever bond they had effectively ended. Then his thoughts snagged on the mysterious account name CB, and the clue yanked him hard back to the present. Suta realized that CB was the same account name as before, and he linked it to Cherry Blossom while Mio still stood in front of him. As he walked the hallway, Suta nervously wondered whether he should really confirm if Mio was CB. Mio reacted with casual surprise and treated the matter as more serious than she had expected. Watching her from behind, Suta doubted that a popular girl like Mio would ever notice someone like him. Mio all of a sudden dropped something, and the light clatter on the floor instantly pulled attention. Suta froze in the hallway with the fallen item in his hands, caught off guard before he could even think. As he reached for the item, a sharp voice all of a sudden told him to stop, jolting him where he stood. Another girl recognized it as Mio's belonging and right away accused Suta of taking it, shocking both him and Mio. Flustered and cornered, Suta tried to deny it, but the words barely escaped. Mio looked tired of the situation and quietly thought that things always seemed to end like this. Another girl insisted that Suta had stolen Mio's pass card, and Mio right away asked what was going on. Mio stood there confused, clearly unable to make sense of the accusation at all. Panicking, Suta hurried to explain himself, but his nerves stole the chance from him. As Suta tried to respond, Mio all of a sudden cut in, and he flinched in startled confusion. Mio stepped in beside him and firmly said there was no way Riku would do something like that, leaving Suta stunned. With an easy smile, Mio added that they had been friends forever, making her defense sound effortless and absolute. She kept the act going, cheerfully saying it had been a long time and that meeting again like this was fun, while Suta could only awkwardly play along. Mio smoothly took back the pass case and thanked him for returning it, turning the accusation into a harmless misunderstanding. Left alone in the hallway, Suta quietly answered with a dazed agreement, still trying to process how Mio had protected him. As the scene faded into the open sky, the sudden encounter left a heavy mark on Suta. Suta lay in bed staring at his phone, unable to shake what had happened or what he had just learned. On a private account labeled CB, he found cruel harassment comments demanding inappropriate photos, and the whole thing instantly felt uglier. Realizing that the harassment around her had only kept growing even after the account was locked, Suta watched in troubled silence. He noticed that CB kept posting attention-grabbing pictures while completely ignoring the disgusting reactions, and that only confused him more. As he kept scrolling, Suda awkwardly thought about how he had always seen himself as a decent, well-behaved kid. He right away drew a line and told himself he would never write comments like those, trying to separate himself from the people attacking her. Mio's earlier words about them being friends forever came back to him, and that unquestioning trust tightened painfully around his chest. Red-faced in the dark, Suta started wondering if the girl he knew and the owner of that account were really the same person. He then questioned whether he was just chasing a ridiculous fantasy, especially when his only real clue was a mole he had noticed. Still drowning in doubt, Suda kept staring at the phone and quietly hesitated, unable to decide what to believe. Suda kept reading the filthy replies and found more people pushing CB to post more provocative school-related pictures, sending his discomfort even higher. Then he found a post where CB casually agreed to do it the next day after others urged her on, and that single message set off alarm bells in his head. The realization hit Suda so hard that he froze, staring at the screen in shock. Lying in bed, Suta pieced it together and concluded that she was planning a school uniform photo shoot tomorrow, leaving him tense and wide awake. After school the next day, Suda lingered alone in the hallway, clearly acting on what he had seen. He stationed himself by the only stairs leading to the roof and told himself this had to be the place. Even so, Suta knew it made him look like a complete stalker, and that thought only made him more painfully aware of himself. He tried to excuse it in his own head as harmless waiting, but his nerves kept tightening in the empty stairwell. Then he noticed someone approaching and instantly wondered if this could be CB, tensing as the pressure peaked. Instead, a smiling girl named Riku called out to him and asked why he was still there, catching Suda completely off guard. Suta noticed that she had come from the rooftop, and that possibility made his suspicion flare at once. When he saw her clearly, Suda was shaken by the thought that Sakurazawa might really be CB. He clenched his fist and desperately told himself there had to be another explanation. Still staring in disbelief, Suta could barely process that the person before him might truly be Sakurazawa. Before he could move, a stern girl cut in and warned that the roof was off limits. The black-haired girl stood there with cold composure, instantly tightening the pressure around them. Caught off guard, Suta quickly apologized and addressed her as Akino-san. The others recognized the name and noted that Akino had been elected vice president of the student council as a first year. The blonde girl explained that Akino was a serious, well-behaved, and innocent student, completely unlike Sakurazawa, while Suta listened in uneasy silence. As Suta compared the two girls side by side, he wondered whether Sakurazawa might have looked respectable and dignified too if she had grown up like Akino. Suta rejected the idea that Sakurazawa was innocent, telling himself she was far too unpredictable for that. Sakurazawa casually claimed she had only been enjoying the breeze, then cheerfully added that a little stretching should have been harmless. Akino coldly warned that there would not be a second chance, and Sakurazawa quickly acted as if she had learned her lesson. Akino turned to Suta and called him Oba-kun, and he jolted upright before answering at once. Akino asked whether Suta had noticed anything unusual about Sakurazawa lately, reminding him that they were in the same class. Caught off guard by the question, Suta apologized and abruptly said he should leave, unable to answer. As Suta walked away in a daze, the girls behind him praised Eika-sama and admired how beautiful she looked that day. Suta's mind raced as he linked the rooftop incident to what he had seen on her social feed. Lying in bed with his phone, Suta cursed under his breath as the suspicion became harder to ignore. He looked again at cheerful photos of Sakurazawa, trying to reconcile her innocent online image with what he had witnessed. Staring at Sakurazawa's cheerful photos, Suta realized she had acted disturbingly normal even after the rooftop incident, and he bitterly concluded that she was a complete devil. In his memory, Sakurazawa stood on the rooftop with her phone raised and a bright smile, presenting herself calmly as if nothing was wrong. She then turned towards someone nearby while still holding her phone, as if inviting attention and confirming Suta's worst suspicions. Overcome by anger, Suta rushed in and confronted Sakurazawa at close range, startling her with the force of his reaction. Face to face with her, Suta accused her of betraying him and lashed out by calling her a foolish gyaru who wanted attention from other guys. Shaken and flushed, Sakurazawa pleaded for him to stop as his words landed harder than she expected. As she braced herself against the fence, and the moment takes an uncomfortable turn, but instead of breaking down, Sakurazawa answered with a disturbingly calm expression, leaving Suta even more unsettled by what he saw. The memory snapped shut, and Suta writhed in bed in frustration, groaning as the scene kept replaying in his head. Quenching his pillow, Suta cursed the whole situation and seethed at himself for being unable to forget what had happened. Suta scrolled through CB's account and found replies praising the rooftop post and begging for more, making the whole thing feel even more disturbing. Another post pushed him further, with CB openly feeding off the attention and promising to do it again at school. He opened the message screen and prepared to contact the account directly. As he typed, Suta began with an apology and warned that chasing attention like this around CB was dangerous. He went on to say he missed the old innocent version of her and insisted he already knew who she really was. Staring at the message, Suta hesitated, knowing what he was about to do might be selfish. Even so, he convinced himself that Mio Sakurazawa had once been his first love, and he desperately wanted to see the gentler CB from before she became everyone's favorite. With CB's name filling his mind, Suta resolved to end this once and for all. He left the house in his school uniform as morning broke, carrying that resolve like a burden. At the entrance, Suta paused as someone worked the lock beside him, as if his uneasy mission had already started. At school, a hand picked a key from the rack, quietly setting Suta's plan into motion. During class, the teacher carried on as usual, but Suta could focus only on what was waiting ahead. Suta raised his hand and told the teacher he felt sick and needed to go to the infirmary. After leaving the classroom, he moved through the hall and quietly slipped out toward the rooftop access area. Sitting alone by the wall, Suta admitted to himself that this was a desperate gamble. Looking at CB's post again, he saw her thanking everyone and saying she would do it again at school, convincing him she would return to the roof. Suta tried to steady himself, insisting he was calm and believing Mio Sakurazawa would understand once he confronted her. Time dragged beneath the open sky as he kept waiting on the rooftop. When he finally looked up, Suta realized the day had already slipped into evening. Then he heard the door and jolted, realizing someone had finally come. Hearing movement above, Suta realized someone was climbing up the ladder to the rooftop. He then noticed the girl adjusting part of her outfit, confirming she was preparing for another secret photo shoot. Suta panicked, realizing she was about to start right there. He forced himself to move, deciding he had to stop this before it went any further. When he looked up, he found himself face to face with a striking black-haired girl in a school uniform. Suta froze, unable to process what he was seeing. In that instant, he felt that this was where everything between them truly began. That rooftop encounter became the beginning of everything for both of them. He came to see Akino Aikawa as unbelievably impressive, even more dazzling than the actresses on television, with top grades to match. He also learned that Akino had become student council vice president in her first year, while standing out in athletics and coming from a prestigious political family. Suta grew even more overwhelmed as his eyes fixed on Akino Aikawa's unexpected presence. He saw Akino Aikawa as the very image of perfection, so polished and distant that she barely felt real. Even so, Suta all of a sudden felt that something was wrong. Akano looked flustered and admitted that whatever was happening was not going to stop. Seeing her from behind as his thoughts raced, Suta began to wonder if the whole situation had misled him. When Akano covered her mouth and reacted shyly, Suta was stunned that this side of her belonged to Akino Aikawa. Akino apologized and explained that she had not expected anyone to be there. Still shaken, Suta directly asked whether CB was actually her. Akino calmly confirmed that his guess was right. Suta could only stare in disbelief, while Akino seemed puzzled by how seriously he was taking the revelation. Akino Aikawa quietly told Suta Sakuhara to come closer, and he froze at how all of a sudden she took control. With a teasing smile, Akino called him by his online handle, Hapa-kun, leaving Suta no room to deny the truth. Suta panicked as he realized she knew his username, and the shot crashed over him. Flustered and cornered, Suta awkwardly wondered if his secret had already been fully exposed. As Akino faced him from the rooftop side, Suta stood trapped in tense silence while someone approached from the stairs. Trying to steady himself, Suta thanked Akino for what she had done, but his embarrassment only made it more awkward. Akino gently corrected how he addressed her, pulling him away from stiff formality and toward the nickname Hapa-kun with unsettling ease. Then Akino directly asked Suta which cosplay he liked most, turning the conversation into a test he was nowhere near ready for. Suta blurted out in alarm, completely overwhelmed by the question and unable to answer. Akino pressed further and asked Suta to take a photo of her, leaving him even more shaken by how boldly she kept pulling him in. Suta stammered that he could not do it, already crumbling under the pressure of Akino's request. As Akino kept pressing, Suta panicked inside and wondered why she was taking him this far. Faced with her unwavering gaze, Suta froze again and could barely force out a response. He realized this was becoming dangerous for his composure because he was seeing a side of Akino he had never known. Akino calmly asked whether he liked the pose and urged him to say it, while Suta winced in helpless embarrassment. When Suta tried to refuse, Akino cut through his hesitation and insisted that he say it anyway. Overwhelmed, Suta shakily began giving pose directions, telling Akino to crouch and angle herself more clearly. Akino followed along and asked if he wanted her turned toward him, making the moment hit even harder for Suta. Suta nervously told her to lean back, while Akino admitted the position was difficult as she tried to follow his instructions. The sight hit Suta all at once, and he could only stare in stunned disbelief at what he had just asked her to do. Shizuno calmly told Suta to take the shot, looking completely confident while he remained overwhelmed. Suta stared at his phone in shock, his face burning as the pressure closed in. Shizuno urged him to come closer, and Suta stiffened as he obeyed with trembling hands. As Suta moved in with the camera, he got too close and nearly lost his nerve under the intensity of the moment. Startled and panicking behind the phone, Suta heard Shizuno call out to him and froze again. Shizuno then said she wanted to see the result too, moving even nearer and tightening the pressure around him. With a tense expression, Shizuno softly asked Suta to show her the screen too, leaving him completely cornered. Suta jolted in embarrassment as he fumbled with his phone, thrown into confusion by how far Shizuno was pushing him. When Suta shifted and the screen came into view, Shizuno fell silent in visible surprise at what she saw. Completely rattled and shaken, Suta could only mumble that he was fully overwhelmed and had no idea what was happening to him. Akeno looked deeply embarrassed and told Suta that this alone already made her happy. Then Akeno quietly admitted that she wanted to keep going with this, leaving Suta stunned and unable to process it. In his panic, Suta's phone all of a sudden flicked from his hand. Completely red-faced, Suta blurted out in disbelief as he realized Akeno was speaking as if they were already tied up in this together. With both of them overwhelmed, Suta thought the situation was bad, while Akeno silently admitted to herself that it was even worse. Akeno looked straight at him, and calmly noted that he seemed tense, which only made him more aware of himself. Before the moment could go any further, Akeno all of a sudden reacted to something off-screen, and Suta right away called out to her in alarm. A strange sound nearby made Akeno turn toward it at once. Both of them looked over in shock, completely blindsided by the interruption. An older man appeared and, sounding puzzled, remarked that nobody else was supposed to be there. Suta and Akeno froze and stared at the older man, both caught in sudden shock after being discovered. The older man thought it was a good thing he had taken the master key, then complained that only heaven knew who had taken the main key. As the tension snapped, Suta stood there in a daze and inwardly wondered what he was even doing. Akeno recovered first and suggested that they head back, and Suta nervously agreed at once. With a calm smile, Akeno told Suta she would see him after school tomorrow and said they should continue from where they left off. Those words hit Suta hard, and he could only stare blankly as he repeated that it would happen right there. Later, the scene shifted away from school as the day finally came to an end. Back home in bed, Suta lay awake with his phone in hand, still far too restless to settle down. Aika sent him a message saying that today had been very fun and that she would be happy if he looked at her photo and remembered it. Staring at the screen, Suta felt even more overwhelmed as he admitted Akeno was adorable and wondered why someone like her would take interest in him. Suta stared at Aika's photo in shock as he realized she even knew his online username. Remembering her calling him Oba-kun, Suta felt even more shaken by how personally she seemed to know him. Even though he had tried to act responsibly and delete the images, he admitted to himself that he still could not let it go. He looked toward the trash where the discarded tissue sat and confessed that his hand had moved before he could stop himself. The image of Aika's smiling face lingered vividly in his mind and pulled him in even deeper. Holding his phone, Suta reminded himself that Sakurazawa was still in Class C, yet he found himself doubting everything. Her cheerful picture only made it worse, and he felt completely overwhelmed by how badly his thoughts were spiraling. He realized with guilt that he was getting carried away while already having plans with another girl. Lying in bed, Suta froze in miserable silence before curling up and trembling with shame. Alone in his room, Suta muttered that he was the worst and sank even deeper into self-loathing. Morning came at school, but the quiet campus only made Suta's sleepless night feel even heavier. While washing his hands, Suta admitted he had barely slept at all. He kept thinking there was no way the most beautiful girl in school could truly be interested in someone like him. As the water spiraled down the drain, Suta all of a sudden went still, struck by a dark thought. He pictured himself being dragged under by his own emotions, struggling as guilt and self-doubt threatened to swallow him whole. Snapping back, he quickly shut off the faucet and stared down in alarm. Suta forced himself to admit he needed to get a grip. Looking at the drain, he told himself something this good could never happen to a worthless guy like him. Before he could fall any further, a cheerful girl all of a sudden grabbed his shoulder and called out to Riku, making Suta jump in shock. Then she realized her mistake and quickly apologized to Suta, explaining that the bags under his eyes made him look like a completely different person, while he stumbled through a startled reply to Sakurazawa. Suta awkwardly claimed he had stayed up all night gaming, and Mio Sakurazawa simply accepted it. Trying to keep his distance, Suta coldly asked what Mio wanted, then instantly realized he had sounded harsher than he meant to. Mio corrected herself and told Suta she actually had something important she wanted to talk to him about. She all of a sudden asked him to hang out after school, just the two of them and on her treat, leaving Suta stunned. The memory of Akino Aikawa asking to meet again after school hit him instantly, and panic surged through him. Pressed by that fear, Suta told Mio he had to go home early because of family matters. The moment he said it, Suta admitted to himself that he had lied on impulse, unable to bring himself to mention Akino Aikawa. Mio only smiled softly and said she understood, which twisted the guilt even deeper. Suta apologized, but Mio reassured him not to worry since she had been the one to ask so all of a sudden. Even after her kindness, Suta could not settle down and kept wondering if this was really okay. Suta remembered that he used to like Mio Sakurazawa, and those old feelings resurfaced before he could push them down. He admitted that he had cared about her enough to try stopping her in a reckless way, even though deep down he already knew he had been wrong about her. As he turned away, Suta wondered what he was supposed to do now. Mio gently told him she would ask him again another day, and Suta could only answer weakly. Watching her leave, Suta wondered whether Mio was still the same inside and whether she was still the kind girl he once knew. As his hand reached for the door, he thought that if he went to the rooftop that day, something inside him would change. The memory of Akino Aikawa flooded over him, and he felt that if he returned to that rooftop, he would never be able to go back to who he used to be. That fear made Suta stop, and he started telling himself maybe avoiding it was safer. When Mio reacted in surprise, Suta told her he did not need to go home early after all. Mio looked relieved and told him not to force himself, adding that her own plans could wait. Suta insisted it really was not a problem, but his uneasy face made it clear he was still trying to convince himself. Clenching his fist, he brushed it off as nothing serious while inwardly cursing himself for speaking too carelessly again. Mio reacted with surprise and asked if he really meant it, making Suta freeze where he stood. Mio brightened at once and told him she would wait by the shoe lockers after school, clearly happy that he had agreed. Caught off guard by how happy she looked, Suta could only give a stiff, stunned reply. The scene shifted to their classroom, marking the start of the school day with that promise still hanging over Suta. Sitting at his desk, Suta checked his phone alone while the rest of the class moved around him. He saw a message from Aika saying she could not stay after school that day and apologizing for it. Reading that, Suta told himself this meant he could still keep things the way they were and avoid changing anything. Then his phone all of a sudden vibrated, and the interaction becomes difficult to navigate. Suta checked the new message and saw that Riku said she could not stay after school and was sorry. Even the apologetic sticker on the screen made the cancellation feel final, leaving him staring in silence. Trying to stay calm, Suta replied that it was okay, though his face showed both relief and hesitation. As he walked through the hall, Suta told himself he could still turn back and keep anything from changing. Then Riku appeared right in front of him with a bright smile and happily called out to him. She thanked Suta for making time for her and excitedly said she wanted to treat him to anything today. Riku added that her budget only went up to 500 yen, keeping the mood playful and light. Leading the way, Riku said she was glad she had come to Sakurazawa's side, and Suta awkwardly agreed before following her. As he looked at her, Suta started thinking that maybe the two of them could become closer than before. That hopeful thought shattered when Mio Sakurazawa all of a sudden appeared beside them, instantly throwing Suta off balance. Mio Sakurazawa revealed that Oba had told her Suta would be going out with Riku after school, and said she had been waiting for a chance to talk with Riku. Mio then politely asked if she could come along too, leaving Suta stunned while Riku looked at her in surprise. Riku right away agreed, cheerfully saying that was fine. Mio clasped her hands and happily said she was glad to hear it. Suta froze and wondered how Mio knew, insisting to himself that he had not told anyone about going out with Riku. With a calm smile, Mio carried herself in a way that only made Suta more uneasy. The three of them ended up going to a cafe called Stirvacation together. Once they sat down with drinks, Riku admitted she had been really surprised that Suta wanted to spend time with her. In front of the two of them, Mio cheerfully said she had always wanted to get closer to Sakurazawa, while Riku reacted with happy surprise and Suta kept his head down under the tension. As Riku started bringing up what happened between Sakurazawa and Akino, Suta nervously thought that he had never said a word about it. Suta was thrown into confusion and silently demanded to know how Mio knew any of this and why she was acting so calm. Mio leaned in with a faint smile, and her unreadable expression tightened the pressure around Suta even more. As Mio sipped her drink without the slightest sign of worry, Suta panicked and feared she might expose what had happened the day before. In his confusion, Suta internally traced the leak back to Oba and Happa, trying to figure out who had told Mio. Mio revealed that even back then, she knew the account belonged to Suta, and quietly asked why that knowledge had made him so happy. Mio admitted that she still did not understand his feelings, leaving the air between them tense and uncertain. Mio explained that she often saw Riku in a library, and the situation becomes awkward. Riku lit up with excitement and happily said she liked that kind of subject too. Mio warmly introduced herself by asking Riku to call her Mio, and politely asked if she could call her Rika as well. Riku cheerfully agreed, then asked whether Mio and Riku were close, eager to hear more about their connection. Mio calmly explained that Oba had helped her when she was in trouble and said that was how the two of them started talking. With a bright smile, Mio turned to Oba and prompted him to confirm her story. Oba awkwardly agreed, while Sauta instantly realized she was lying and grew even more suspicious. Riku innocently praised Oba for being kind, but Mio kept guiding the conversation in that direction. Mio then remarked that Riku seemed especially close to him, testing her reaction with a knowing look. Sauta was caught off guard and anxiously wondered what Mio was trying to do. Riku froze in confusion, clearly not expecting Mio to bring up that subject, so all of a sudden. After a brief pause, Riku cheerfully revealed that she and Oba had known each other since childhood. Suta backed up her explanation by saying they were childhood friends, though he nervously wondered whether Mio had already known that or had only guessed. Mio lightly accepted the answer, while Riku happily noted that they were both in trouble now and Oba reacted in flustered disbelief. Sauta stared at Mio in disbelief and wondered what was going on with her. Mio stayed perfectly calm, then all of a sudden said she had something to show them. She cheerfully revealed her phone and told them it was for Mio, making Suta even more uneasy. As Riku leaned in with curiosity, Suta realized Mio was about to reveal something and panicked. He internally begged her not to do it, shocked that she might actually go through with it. Suta lunged forward in a frantic attempt to stop her, knocking into the table in the process. Mio looked startled as Suta hurriedly reached for the phone in front of everyone. The phone screen lit up with a clear photo of the moon, showing what Mio had actually wanted to share. Mio calmly explained that it was a photo of the supermoon and asked Oba whether she liked things like that too. Sauta awkwardly apologized for overreacting, while Riku laughed and pointed out that he had moved way too fast. Mio admired the moon photo and said it was beautiful, then mentioned that she even had a telescope at home, which made Suta freeze again. The scene grows awkward with no easy escape. Mio then noticed how late it had gotten and said she needed to leave. Before going, Mio apologized for all of a sudden joining them and asked Oba if she wanted to hang out again, and Oba eagerly agreed. Oba happily told Mio that she would send her a message later. Mio smiled and said she was looking forward to it, leaving the atmosphere light and friendly. Once Mio was gone, Suta let out a long, exhausted sigh as the tension finally crashed into him. Oba cheerfully remarked that Aika had been surprisingly easy to talk to, and Suta awkwardly agreed. Oba noticed Suta had barely spoken and asked if something was wrong, so he apologized and admitted he had just been nervous. Oba reacted with amused curiosity and teased that maybe he had been flustered by being surrounded by girls, while Suta quickly denied it. After Mio left, Suta kept replaying the meeting and wondered what she had really wanted beyond simple small talk. Later, when he ended up alone with Mio Sakurazawa, his nerves tightened because the mood all of a sudden felt different and much more personal. Mio reminded him that she had said she wanted to talk to him about something and made it clear she wanted to settle it that day. Facing him head-on, Mio calmly asked what was wrong, pointing out how formal and hesitant he had been acting. Pushing to his nerves, Suta told her that he wanted to start an astronomy club. Mio then revealed that she wanted to do it with him and shyly asked whether he would join her. When she clarified that she meant only the two of them, Suta froze in shock while Mio flushed from hearing herself say it aloud. Still reeling, Suta asked why she had chosen him, and Mio hesitated before finally starting to explain. As their hands hovered close together, Mio said her reason came from something long ago, something she thought he might have forgotten. Mio gently reminded him that there had been a time when she cared for an injured sparrow. Mio recalled the tiny injured sparrow lying helplessly in her hands, and the old memory sharpened all at once. She remembered kneeling in the woods with Suta beside her, trying to help the bird while feeling powerless. Mio admitted that back then she had not been able to do anything for Chunta. She said she really had tried her best to save him, but in the end, it still had not been enough. Through tears and apologies, Mio remembered wishing the little bird could fly again and hating herself when it could not. As Mio broke down in that memory, young Suta gently called to her and pulled her eyes toward him. Suta then pointed upward and told Mio to look at the brightest, most beautiful star in the sky. He explained that the star was Spica and told her it belonged to Virgo, her zodiac sign. With Mio listening in silence, Suta added that the star was known as the goddess mother's star. He then started telling her about a mother goddess whose daughter had been taken, and how she wandered through Greece in grief searching for her child. Mio said there might be no great tale written from the daughter's side, but she believed a mother loved that deeply must have loved her daughter just as much. Sauta recalled telling Chunta that he truly cared for him, the memory returning with innocent warmth. He had even compared that star to Mio herself, and only then did she realize how directly he had once spoken to her heart. Back in the present, Mio laughed in embarrassment and teased Suta for saying something so cheesy as a kid, and his flustered reaction only made her blush more. Mio then told him that his words that day had made her genuinely happy, leaving Suta stunned. With a soft smile, Mio confessed that she had carried that moment with her all this time. Sauta froze completely, crushed by the realization that she had held onto those words for years. Mio then revealed that she had already checked the school rooftop, making Suta anxiously repeat her words in confusion. As he pictured her searching on her own, Suta all of a sudden understood what had really been driving her. Staring at Mio in disbelief, Suta could only think that Sakurazawa had remembered even the smallest thing he had once said. Suta jolted upright in panic, apologized at once, and asked if Mio was okay after leaning in far too close. As they found themselves all of a sudden face to face at point-blank range, both of them froze in awkward silence. Suta realized just how close he had gotten, and the uncomfortable nearness completely scrambled him. Mio went blank while Suta panicked and sighed that the moment was becoming too intense, when Riku's name all of a sudden flashed through her mind. Suta snapped back to himself all at once, his face burning as the moment nearly crossed a line. A message alert cut through the air, and Suta hurried to check the link, admitting the timing had saved him. He stared down at the phone in confusion, and his embarrassment instantly turned into concern. The screen showed a desperate message from Aika asking for help, and the mood changed in an instant. Sauta recognized it was from Akeno-san and repeated her name in alarm. Follow-up messages said she was near the bookstore inside the mall, and that a creepy stranger was bothering her, leaving Suta shaken. Mio noticed Suta react the moment Akeno's name appeared and asked what was wrong, already sensing the danger. Suta told Mio that Akeno-san was being harassed by a suspicious person, and Mio went pale at how serious it sounded. Realizing there was no time, Sauta rushed off at once and declared that he was going there right now. Sauta hurried through the mall, scanning the area near the bookstore as the tension rose with every second. He pushed deeper into the crowd, knowing he could not ignore a message like that, his worry driving every step. Suta looked around in confusion, wondering where Akeno was, until something ahead made him stop. He found Akeno-san standing with an adult woman, and the sight threw him off because it was nothing like the danger he had imagined. Hearing the woman wonder who Akeno was, Suta realized the encounter felt unfamiliar, not threatening. He stood there stunned, having expected some suspicious man, and now he had no idea how to react. Suta called out to Akeno-san, and Akeno brightened as she greeted Oba-kun while the woman quietly steadied him. Sauta froze awkwardly when the woman turned toward him, and all he could manage was a hesitant sound. The woman asked if Suta was Akeno's friend, making it clear she was calmly sizing him up. She introduced herself as Kanbara from the talent agency Virgo Promotion, and her polished smile instantly changed the situation. Sauta was stunned by the words talent agency, and his panic flipped straight into disbelief. As Suta realized Akeno was being scouted, Akeno remained calm, which somehow made her seem even more suited for it. Kanbara said Akeno could absolutely become popular and asked Suta to help persuade her, pushing the pressure onto him without warning. Caught off guard, Suta started to refuse, and admitted he was not really in a position to do that. Kanbara quickly apologized for putting him on the spot and softened her tone. Suta gave a strained response, still overwhelmed by how completely the misunderstanding had turned around. Kanbara caught his expression right away, and bluntly asked if he was judging her as useless, forcing him back on edge. Suta told himself he had come there to help Akeno Aikawa, and tried to cling to that. But standing there with no idea what to do, he began to wonder if he was the strange one here. Kanbara smoothly said she would borrow Akeno for a little while, seizing control again. Before Suta could even process that, Akeno reached out and grabbed his arm. Akeno calmly declared that Suta was her boyfriend, and he went completely blank. As Kanbara hurried after them in confusion, Akeno briskly pulled Suta away and told him to come with her. While leading him off, Akeno coolly remarked that he really was not very perceptive. Still feeling her hand on him, Sauta called out to Akeno in disbelief as she kept walking. They quickly headed for the exit, putting more and more distance between themselves and Kanbara. Once they reached a quieter spot, Akeno stopped while Suta stood there tense and speechless, still trying to catch up. Suta remained frozen, unable to process that Akeno had just called him her boyfriend. Akeno calmly thanked him, and Suta could only stare at her, completely lost. With an unexpectedly warm smile, Akeno said she was glad he had come, and that hit him even harder. Suta was thrown by how all of a sudden Akeno's mood had shifted, and all he could do was react in disbelief. Trying to defend himself, Suta insisted he had only been standing there and had not really done anything. He awkwardly joked that having someone like him pretend to be her boyfriend would only hurt her. Akeno looked straight at him and asked if he was really that afraid of how other people saw him. Her words struck instantly, and Suta fell silent as the question hit exactly where it hurt. Stepping closer, Akeno pushed further and asked what he had really thought when he saw her account. Pinned by her stare, Suta faltered and tried to answer, but the words would not come out right. Akeno moved closer and bluntly asked if Suta had been thinking about what happened on the rooftop. Suta jolted in panic, his face flushing as Akeno's words and the pressure of the moment overwhelmed him. Akeno coolly spelled it out that he kept obsessing over how other people saw him, even while fumbling with his own feelings. She went on to say that in places where he felt safe, those buried thoughts still pushed their way up. The accusation landed hard, and Sauta could only stare back, shaken and speechless. Looking down at him with a faint smile, Akeno flatly called him pathetic. Suta tried to answer, but it felt too painfully true for any words to come. In his mind, Suta clung to the image of the person he used to believe he was. He remembered seeing himself as a perfect child and holding desperately to that identity. But that self-image crumbled, and he was forced to face the thought that he had become worthless. Crushed by shame, Suta Sakuhara sank down trembling while Akeno Aikawa stood over him in silence. Akeno coldly told him to stand up. When Suta weakly reacted, Akeno mocked him for not even being able to rise by himself. Suta begged her to stop, and Akeno right away demanded to know why he wanted her to. Leaning in close, Akeno pressed harder and asked if he was the one choosing to stay down there. As Suta froze, Akeno moved right beside him and judged him as truly hopeless. The pressure swallowed him, and Suta could only tremble in humiliated confusion. With a calm smile, Akeno declared that she loved him even though she saw him as trash. That confession hit Suta so hard that all he could manage was a broken attempt to respond. As her words sank in, Suta remained frozen under the weight of that twisted affection. Sauta blurted out that he had hit his limit, still shaking and unable to pull himself together. Akeno Aikawa looked down at her hand and calmly judged it as the strongest reaction she had ever seen from him. Suta sat on the floor, wiping his face, breathing hard as the humiliation crashed over him all at once. In a dazed voice, Suta realized Akeno was treating him like a child being scolded, and the thought only drove his shame deeper. Even while calling him trash, Akeno kept repeating that she loved Suta, trapping him between rejection and affection with no escape. Akeno stared at her hand and matter-of-factly called it the strongest response he had ever shown, leaving Suta speechless. Turning to him, Akeno directly asked if what she was seeing had come from Suta, and the bluntness stunned him. Akeno reacted with casual curiosity, almost playful, while Suta jolted at how completely unfazed she was. She brought her hand closer to inspect it, and Suta could only breathe sharply in panic as her quiet scrutiny pushed his embarrassment to the brink. After a brief pause, Akeno flatly concluded that it was unpleasant, crushing him with one last blunt remark. Something fell nearby, and the sudden sound snapped Suta into confused alarm. Akeno Aikawa calmly told Suta to clean himself up, handling his breakdown like it was nothing unusual. As Suta stared in confusion, Akeno picked up her bag and told him they were leaving. Akeno insisted they had to get back quickly, moving everything forward before Suta could even recover. At a cafe, Mio sat alone with her phone, waiting anxiously and unable to calm down. Worried, Mio wondered if Riku and Aika were safe, and even considered going after them herself. When Akeno and Suta arrived, Mio right away recognized Aika, while Suta stood behind her looking flustered and uneasy. Mio rushed over in relief, checked if they were okay, and explained that Obakun had helped her. Akeno turned to Suta with a knowing smile and prompted him to confirm the story, pressing him without saying much. Blushing and shaken, Suta forced himself to say it was nothing, even as he wondered what was happening to him. Mio brightly praised Riku, and Suta, still flustered, could only thank her awkwardly. As Mio smiled at him, Suta realized that even after everything with Akeno Aikawa, he was still trying to act normal in front of the girl he liked. He corrected himself at once, admitting deep down that he was not normal at all and was only pretending. Facing Mio, Suta felt his thoughts start to spiral as he quietly wondered what was happening to him. The pressure finally caught up to him, and he turned that confusion inward, shaken by how badly he was slipping. Later, the scene shifted to Suta's home as the weight of the day followed him all the way back. Alone in his room, Suta sat on his bed in silence, unable to settle the storm inside him. He checked his phone and focused on the account name CB, still unsettled by what he had learned. Looking through the page, Suta found behind-the-scenes photos and confirmed that the account really belonged to Akeno Aikawa. Collapsing onto his bed with his phone in hand, Suta groaned in misery, blaming himself for getting involved after learning Akeno Aikawa was CB. Alone in bed, Suta hesitated over his phone and tried to justify messaging her, telling himself it would be fine if he only did it once. Then, a direct message notification all of a sudden appeared, and the surprise made him freeze. The sender was CB, and Akeno Aikawa right away teased him by asking if he had been about to reach out again just now. Suta jolted upright in shock and realized the message was really from Akeno Aikawa herself. Akeno Aikawa pressed further and pointed out that right after seeing her that day, he had been unusually worked up while talking with Mio. Her comment hit hard, and Suta's face burned as panic and embarrassment rushed over him. Flustered, he hurried to type a reply, desperate to deny what she was implying and take back some control. He sent a blunt denial, insisting that it was not like that at all. When no answer came back, Suta stared at the screen in confusion and nervously wondered why she had gone silent. The silence only worsened his anxiety, and he buried his face down as he admitted to himself that this was definitely bad. Unable to endure the silence any longer, Suta desperately admitted that he needed a reply from Akeno Aikawa. A new message arrived, and Akeno Aikawa right away confessed that her earlier silence had been deliberate. Seeing that, Suta stiffened and stared at the screen in uneasy confusion. Then, Akeno Aikawa bluntly mocked him as a pervert, and the accusation left Suta deeply shaken. As he reeled from it, he tried to rationalize his fixation by telling himself he was only attached to the character she was portraying. Even while saying that, Suta could only keep fixating on Akeno Aikawa herself. In his mind, her overwhelming presence rose vividly, as if she were standing right above him again. That imagined Akeno Aikawa coldly called him trash, and the insult struck with humiliating force. Lying there in a daze, Suta reflected that many of Akeno Aikawa's cosplays were based on characters he already liked. Even so, his weak reply revealed that he knew his feelings had gone far beyond that excuse. In the silence of her room, Akeno Aikawa brushed the whole exchange aside and muttered that it did not matter. Outside, the quiet mansion stood still at night, emphasizing the distance between her and Suta Sakuhara. Seated alone at her desk, Akeno Aikawa looked at her screen and calmly weighed her next move. As Suta's contact remained open on her phone, Akeno Aikawa noticed a message from Mio and shifted her attention to it. Mio said she wanted to talk more with Suta and added that she hoped they could do club activities together. When another message followed, Mio excitedly explained that she was thinking of starting an astronomy club. Mio then eagerly told Suta that she would be very happy if he decided to join. Seeing that invitation, Akeno Aikawa's expression tightened with sudden interest. Suta quickly agreed and sent back that he would definitely join, leading no hesitation at all. Reading his instant acceptance, Akeno Aikawa froze at her desk as the reply clearly struck something in her. Looking at an old photo of two boys with a soccer ball, the story shifted toward a memory deeply tied to Suta Sakuhara's past. Akeno Aikawa appeared before him and calmly noted that they were finally meeting face to face. In class, Suta sat in a haze, visibly drained as the weight of everything left him unfocused. The memory of Akeno's teasing questions surfaced again, and Suta recalled how she had pressed him about whether that overwhelming rush was new to him. Gripping his hands tightly, Suta admitted to himself that he had never felt that kind of intensity in his life. Flushed and shaken, he struggled to understand the unfamiliar emotion building inside him. As the confusion deepened, Suta began wondering if he was losing control of his own mind. Even while staring blankly ahead, he realized Akeno still had not contacted him, and the silence only made him more restless. Nearby, Mio Sakurazawa smiled brightly, unaware of how distracted Suta had become. Watching from his seat, Suta reflected that since that day, he had not been able to properly talk with Mio Sakurazawa either. Suta realized he could not bring himself to speak as shock and tension all of a sudden locked him in place. Hearing classmates react crudely to a photo on a phone, Suta stiffened at once and sensed that something serious was spreading. As he caught a glimpse of the image, Suta recognized the background as their school rooftop, and his alarm instantly grew. He rose from his seat in a daze, trying to stay calm while the unease kept building inside him. Looking over at the phone screen nearby, Suta focused on the posted picture and checked what everyone was seeing. After confirming the account, Suta became certain the post came from CB, and that realization tightened everything inside him. The screen showed that CB had uploaded a risky rooftop photo, confirming that the dangerous post was already public. Suta reasoned that the image might not right away expose Akeno Aikawa, but he feared that if it spread further, she could still be put at risk. Remembering the rooftop scene, Suta pictured Akeno Aikawa in that troubling moment and felt his confusion deepen again. Even without fully understanding Akeno Aikawa, Suta concluded that by taking photos on the rooftop, he had also been pulled into the whole incident. Suta tried to steady himself by checking which images had leaked, hoping to grasp how bad the situation had become. Nearby classmates crudely mocked the leaked photo and treated it like entertainment, making Suta feel even more disturbed by how quickly things were turning ugly. A cheerful male teacher joined in with playful confidence, and his sudden presence caught the students off guard. The students reacted in surprise as the teacher greeted them casually, shifting the mood in the room for a moment. The girls welcomed Kittan sensei warmly, while he joked that if they paid proper attention in class, they would not need to ask for test answers. Kittan sensei lightly told everyone to get ready for class, ending the playful exchange and restoring order. As the room settled, Suta returned to his seat, but the earlier tension still clung to him and refused to let go. Kittan sensei noticed Suta's unusual silence and paused, sensing right away that something about him was off. He leaned toward Suta with an easy smile and called out to him, drawing a sharp, startled reaction. When Kittan sensei remarked that he was surprised Suta was not paying attention in class, Suta awkwardly apologized, clearly shaken and unable to hide it. Kittan sensei gently told Suta that everyone has moments when they cannot focus, trying to ease the tension. He then added that it was especially understandable if Suta was dealing with some kind of trouble, and that made Suta go rigid. Kittan sensei asked whether Suta had any problems and casually brought up a rumor that he had skipped class on the rooftop the other day. Startled by that mention, Suta denied it awkwardly while panic hit him, and he wondered if someone had been watching. Two girls happily called out that Kittan sensei was still there, interrupting the moment as he waved back. Kittan sensei lowered his voice and told Suta they should continue in the home economics preparation room during lunch break, assuring him that no one else would be told. With a bright smile, Kittan sensei reminded him that he was still a teacher, framing the invitation as responsible concern. He then said goodbye and left the classroom, while Suta remained frozen at his desk. Watching him leave surrounded by easy attention, Suta admitted to himself that he was bad at dealing with someone like that and saw Kittan sensei as a popular, handsome extrovert. Left alone with his thoughts, Suta anxiously fixated on the rooftop incident and worried about how much Kittan sensei had really seen. A girl in class checked her phone while Suta sat in front of her, and the silence only made the weight in his chest sink deeper. She soon fell quiet and glanced aside, as if she had felt the unease spreading through the room. Lunch break finally came, and with it the language prep room Kittan sensei had chosen for their private talk. Suta stepped inside under a strained excuse, and Kittan sensei greeted him casually with a drink already in hand. Kittan sensei warmly offered him something to drink, but Suta refused at once, far too tense to let his guard down. As Suta lingered awkwardly, Kittan sensei apologized for taking his lunch break and gently asked him to sit, making the pressure feel polite and impossible to escape. While pouring a drink, Kittan sensei explained that many students had been sneaking onto the rooftop lately, and the staff had started treating it as a serious problem. At that, Suta went pale and wondered if they already knew about Akino and Mio Sakurazawa too. His spear sharpened at once, because what mattered now was how much they had uncovered about that day. Kittan sensei then brushed it aside with an easy smile, saying he did not think it needed to become a huge issue, which only made Suta more wary of what he truly knew. Suta told himself that if Kittan sensei had really seen that troubling scene, he would not be acting this calm, and that fragile hope barely kept him steady. Kittan sensei then casually asked for confirmation and laid it out plainly by asking if Suta had gone to the rooftop during class. Thinking this might only be about skipping class, Suta carefully tried to confirm whether that was all this meeting was about. Suta quickly admitted that he had gone to the rooftop and bowed in apology, and Kittan sensei accepted it with unsettling ease. Just when Suta thought it might end there, Kittan sensei leaned back and asked who had been with him, pushing the talk somewhere far more dangerous. Suta froze in confusion as Kittan sensei reached for his phone, already sensing that something decisive was coming. Kittan sensei showed him the screen and stated that Suta had taken those photos too, turning quiet suspicion into a direct accusation. The words hit Suta like a jolt, and he stared at the screen as the pressure all of a sudden closed in. Flustered, Suta insisted he was not the one who had taken the pictures, though his reaction made it seem as if another name had already flashed through his mind. As Kittan sensei watched with that knowing smile, Suta realized in horror that he might already know about Akino. Suta forced himself to stay calm, trying with everything he had not to let the fear show. He told himself that Kittan sensei had no way of knowing who else appeared in the photos, and he clung to that thought just to remain standing. Suta quickly apologized for skipping class, trying to drag the conversation back to the safest explanation he could still offer. He bowed deeply and insisted that he alone had gone to the rooftop that day, desperately shielding the other person involved. As panic tightened around him, Suta kept telling himself to play dumb and never let anyone else's name slip out. Kittan sensei lightly stopped him and told him to raise his head, and that easy tone somehow made the pressure worse. Holding up his phone, Kittan sensei warned that if this became public, the consequences would be serious. Suta stiffened when Kittan sensei added that expulsion was even possible, making the threat all of a sudden feel terrifyingly real. Then Kittan sensei offered him a condition, saying that if Suta revealed who the other person was, things could change. With that same calm smile, Kittan sensei promised that if Suta gave up that name, only Suta would be allowed to avoid punishment. Suta froze as anger surged through him, and in that instant he understood he was facing someone far more ruthless than he had hoped. As Kittan sensei held up the phone, Suta felt humiliated and cornered, sensing that the teacher could see straight through the image he had built for himself. Suta desperately told himself that if he endured this alone, he could still protect Akano Aikawa. Before he could answer, the door all of a sudden opened and shattered the silence gripping the room. A girl stepped inside and called out to Kittan sensei, catching both him and Suta off guard. Then she noticed Suta Sakuhara was there too, and her surprise tightened the moment even further. Kittan sensei casually asked what was going on, acting as if nothing serious had just happened. The girl nervously confessed that she had been the one who went to the rooftop without permission, abruptly taking the blame onto herself. Suta stared at her in shock, unable to process what he had just heard. Kittan sensei only reacted with calm interest, as if he had already begun rearranging the entire situation. Suta reflected that he had always been able to handle everything smoothly. He remembered believing that dealing with people was one of his greatest strengths. He had even won favor from people above him, and that only fed his confidence. Sata had believed he would keep moving through life smoothly, surrounded by success and admiration. That certainty shattered when a private moment and a small personal item left on the floor exposed how badly his control had slipped. In that room, and the moment becomes awkward and difficult to ignore. Instead, the girl stared at him in shock as he all of a sudden told her they should break up. Suta then explained that an arranged marriage proposal with the chairman's daughter had been set, and that he had chosen to neatly reorganize his personal life around it. The breakup came without warning, leaving the girl devastated while Suta treated it like something that had simply happened. Back in the present, and the atmosphere turns heavy with unspoken awareness. Suta calmly claimed that the girl involved had lied and acted unstable at school, using that to support his side of the story. Kittan sensei quietly acknowledged the explanation and gave almost nothing away. Sauta then insisted it was not so simple and suggested that he had suffered too. Even so, he told himself that for the sake of his future, he had to rebuild the trust he had lost. Kittan sensei coldly replied that this was exactly why he was placing expectations on Suta. Sauta took that as a blunt demand to show results and prove he could recover his standing. Leaving the conversation behind, he walked the hallway while wondering what he should do next. Then he noticed something off and stopped, his eyes locking onto a figure ahead. Peeking from behind the wall, Suta realized someone was out of class and instantly grew suspicious. Nearby, a teacher announced that rooftop access had recently been restricted, while the school was also dealing with rumors about troubling rooftop photos spreading among the students. Sauta noticed a student holding a phone, and his focus sharpened as he tried to read the situation. He moved closer and found Mio Sakurazawa with Oba, and the unexpected pair right away set him on edge. Mio explained that she wanted to start an astronomy club and had gone to inspect the rooftop as a possible place for a telescope. Trying to sound casual, Suta asked whether Oba was part of that club plan too. Mio cheerfully admitted that Oba had more or less joined her, which only deepened Suta's unease. Suta then said the matter was starting to become a problem and added that he should probably bring it up at tomorrow's staff meeting. Mio insisted that going to the rooftop was not such a serious issue, then visibly relaxed when she thought she might not be in trouble. Suta told Oba he was lucky and dismissed both students, making Oba freeze in surprise. As they left, Mio answered obediently and admitted that the whole exchange had been nerve-wracking. Oba grimly realized that although he had kept Mio from mentioning Akino, the situation still felt like the worst possible outcome. Mio Sakurazawa quietly realized she had become the most likely target, and she asked why Suta had been suspected instead. Sauta admitted he did not understand it either, then grimly guessed that at tomorrow's meeting Kittan would probably treat both of them as the culprits behind the rooftop photos. As that possibility settled in, Suta imagined that both he and Mio Sakurazawa could end up expelled, and the thought instantly turned his blood cold. Startled, Suta could only stare when Mio all of a sudden said she was actually relieved. Mio explained with a smile that because of her involvement, Suta had almost been made to look like the only bad one, and her words softened the blame falling on him. Sauta faltered in surprise, then slowly realized that Mio Sakurazawa had been trying to protect him. As they walked on, Suta clenched his fist and swore to himself that if nothing else, he had to save Mio Sakurazawa from taking the fall. That heavy resolve followed him into the night as the pressure of the coming meeting hung over him. Back in his room, Sauta worried that if the issue was raised formally, it would be hard to recover from the damage. He then steeled himself and decided that before that happened, he would find something he could use as leverage against Kittan. Suta started digging through old online logs and broad rumor threads, hoping to find anything tied to Kittan. He told himself that any clue would do, as long as it led to a post connected to him. He then searched Kittan's name directly, but the result only brought up a vague complaint that felt useless. Realizing the obvious approach would not work, Suta decided to test every keyword he could, including Kittan's nickname, initials, and first name. He even made a handwritten list of places to check, crossing off school and underground sites before moving on to social media. After another failed attempt, Suta cursed under his breath and admitted that searching by name alone would never uncover what he needed. He quickly reasoned that Kittan would never leave behind evidence that obvious, which forced him to think deeper. Sauta then changed strategy and decided to comb through other students' posts using private words and details that only people close to Kittan would know. At last, one post caught his eye when it showed two students walking together and was captioned as them strolling side by side. Sauta froze in shock as he recognized the school uniform and realized the image might matter far more than it first seemed. Suta all of a sudden noticed the watch in the photo and realized one small detail might expose who he was really looking at. He remembered that Kittan wore his watch on his right hand, then realized the image was mirrored and that the right hand still matched. As he checked further, Suda saw the post was from 5 years ago and recognized that the account belonged to a graduate of their school. Reading the old posts, he found repeated updates about going to the staff room after school and someone the account owner clearly cared about. Suda judged from the wording that the other person was a teacher, which made the whole account feel deeply suspicious. More posts suggested the relationship had grown cold, and the scene shifts into uncomfortable territory. That realization left Suda staring in shock as the pattern finally locked into place. Then, he found a desperate post threatening self-harm, and the situation all of a sudden seemed far more serious. Suda clenched his fist and decided he had finally found the leverage he needed. With that discovery in hand, his focus shifted toward the school as he prepared for what came next. Suda Sakuhara rose from his seat without a word, phone clenched tight as he steeled himself for what came next. Crossing the classroom, Suda admitted that even after all that digging, he still had not found the girl's name or even her graduation year. He warned himself the evidence was weak, yet he could no longer pretend it meant nothing. Suda wondered whether a threat built on a bluff could really shake Kittan-sensei, and the doubt pressed hard on him. Even so, he chose to move before standing still cost him everything. He reached the Japanese preparation room, and the situation shifts into territory no one prepared for. Before he could act, Akeno Aikawa all of a sudden called out to Obakun and asked if he needed something in the Japanese preparation room. Suda turned in shock, completely blindsided by Akeno's sudden appearance. Akeno calmly explained that she only needed to speak with Kittan-sensei, while Suda struggled to answer. Her timing rattled him, and the surprise tightened the unease already twisting inside him. Akeno Aikawa told Suda Sakuhara that Kittan-sensei had stepped out on urgent business and would likely return around the start of 5th period, leaving him visibly shaken. Still unsettled, Suda quietly accepted the update, though it clearly wrecked his plan. He thanked Akeno and started to leave, while she kept watching him from in front of the Japanese preparation room. As Suda headed down the hall, Akeno politely saw him off, then called out to Obakun, revealing she had her own reason to remain there. Akeno stepped inside and softly excused herself as she entered the room alone. Facing Kittan-sensei, Akeno apologized for being late and addressed him formally, opening a conversation meant for no one else. Kittan-sensei assured her it was fine and guessed she had been busy with student council work too. Akeno smoothly shifted to the real issue and asked about what had happened earlier that day, steering the conversation exactly where she wanted it. She then mentioned that she had read Haku Rakuten's Troganka, and that instantly drew Kittan-sensei in. Kittan-sensei explained that the class had only touched on it briefly, and that it would not be on the test, though he noted that she had read it anyway. Akeno pointed out that the passage centered on Enta Tamaga and Bibama Eshi, and Kittan-sensei agreed at once. As Kittan-sensei watched in surprise, Akeno moved closer beside him, and the air between them tightened instantly. Sitting next to him, Akeno lowered her gaze to the text while Kittan-sensei tracked her every move. Akeno quietly adjusted herself and gathered her thoughts before pressing further. She hesitated, addressed him as teacher, and prompted Kittan-sensei to stumble into an awkward apology as he tried to follow her lead. Akeno pointed to the line about the mountain being in emptiness and asked if it referred to Hurai Mountain. Kittan-sensei confirmed that it did and praised Akeno Aikawa, saying her knowledge genuinely impressed him. Akeno answered with a soft smile and explained that she often looked things up because she found his classes interesting. Pleased by her words, Kittan-sensei admitted that hearing something like that always made him happy. Then Akeno turned serious again and said there was something else she wanted to consult him about, pulling his full attention back to her. Akeno Aikawa leaned in and quietly admitted that boys her own age did not interest her much, and the mood around Kittan-sensei shifted at once. Her words landed hard on Kittan-sensei, and he froze where he sat. Trying to steady himself, Kittan-sensei pointed out that someone as popular as Akeno should already have more than enough attention. As the meaning sank in, he nervously wondered if Akeno was directing that interest at him and instantly struggled to suppress the thought. Akeno calmly clarified that she preferred older men because talking with them felt more enjoyable, pulling Kittan-sensei deeper into uncertainty. Flustered but clearly pleased, Kittan-sensei laughed it off and said any man who heard that from her would feel incredibly fortunate. Akeno kept her composure and told him she did not want to cause trouble for him, insisting she was not being careless. Kittan-sensei stared at her in disbelief as a dangerous possibility slowly took shape in his mind. With the room now tense and secretive, Akeno asked if he understood what she was really implying. At that same moment, an unseen girl nearby quietly broke into tears while the pressure around Kittan-sensei kept closing in. The crying girl insisted this had to be a lie, while Kittan-sensei remained cold and unreadable beside her. Kittan-sensei gently told her she was still young and said she should not waste her time on someone like him. He leaned in with a calm smile and tried to calm her, saying she should not cry because there were plenty of men better than him. Even while smiling, Kittan-sensei inwardly sneered at the situation and bitterly blamed himself for getting involved again. From nearby, someone quietly urged careful observation, as if trying to piece together what was really happening. Then the girl revealed she was in serious trouble, and the confession instantly wiped the confidence from Kittan-sensei's face. As she looked up in panic, Kittan-sensei placed a hand on her head and moved close, taking control of the conversation again. Still smiling, he dismissed her claim as a lie, while she weakly begged him to stop. The girl stared ahead in shock as his hand stopped her from pulling away, leaving her frozen and overwhelmed. Elsewhere, two women whispered that Kittan-sensei had been involved with a female graduate, while one of them rejected the rumor that it had ended in an attempted suicide. Kittan-sensei admitted that his mistake had been getting involved with a girl whose charm had clouded his judgment. He recalled that the girl was intelligent, yet not especially strong in her studies, and the contrast lingered in his mind. As he thought about Akino, he briefly wondered whether her knowing his past might somehow make things easier for him. He right away rejected that selfish thought, clenched his fist, and resolved not to take another risk. Akeno calmly noted that the room felt warm, adding another layer of pressure between them. Sauta noticed Akano starting to straighten her appearance, and the sudden move left him visibly stunned. Akeno deliberately raised the tension, presenting herself with quiet confidence as she tested Kittan-sensei's reaction. Leaning close, Akino pointed out that Kittan-sensei seemed unsettled too, while he could only answer in shaken confusion. Overwhelmed, Kittan-sensei froze and stared at her, unable to respond as the pressure kept building. In the hallway afterward, Suda wondered to himself whether Kittan had already come back. Akeno Aikawa all of a sudden appeared in front of Suta in a disheveled state, and the sight stopped him cold. Akino rushed straight into Suta and clung to him, making him panic as he recognized her and saw how terrible the situation looked. Looking directly at him, Akeno pleaded for help and implied that Kittan-sensei had crossed a line with her. In full panic, Suta blurted out that this was not what it seemed, desperately trying to reject the obvious conclusion. The commotion drew teachers and students into the hallway, and their sudden presence made everything far more dangerous. As everyone noticed Akeno, Suta could barely force out a response, while the attention around them snapped hard toward her. A female teacher right away realized Kittan-sensei was involved, while Suta tried to protest that Akeno was the one behind it and failed to seize control back. The surrounding students reacted in shock and quickly concluded that Kittan-sensei was finished once the scandal surfaced. Another teacher sternly ordered everyone back to class, trying to crush the uproar before it spread further. Soon after, the official explanation claimed that Kittan-sensei had all of a sudden left because of an urgent matter, while Suta realized the truth was already being buried. Suta looked at Akeno Aikawa and anxiously wondered if she already knew the truth about Kittan-sensei. As the adults escorted Kittan-sensei away, one of them demanded to know why it had gone this far, while he could only answer weakly. Saura was stunned when Akeno stood silently before him, and he nervously called out to her after noticing how dark and unreadable her expression had become. Akeno then raised her face and gave him a calm, knowing smile that made the tension around her feel even more unsettling. Sauta stared in confusion, thinking he still could not fully grasp what he was seeing, and his unease kept rising. As he noticed an awkward detail in her appearance, Suta grew even more flustered and could only stare in alarm at what it seemed to imply.